Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. Today it's March 13th. Happy Selection Sunday if you're into college hoops. But for this one, we're looking at the waiver wire for Week 21, and I just want to shout out, like, if you guys are playing fantasy basketball, Week 21, it needs to be this week. Your playoff should be starting this week. I think if you're playing one more week of regular season this week, you're going to be ending up sticking with the last week of the NBA season, which is it's kind of like the NFL, where the last week of the NFL, I don't want my fantasy league running into that week. So I'm hoping that you guys are having playoffs start tomorrow, which would be Monday. So we're going to look at the advanced schedule grid before we get into the players and the pickups of the week. The teams that you want to avoid this week: Miami Heat, only 2 games this week. So it's unfortunate. Only play against Detroit on Tuesday and Oklahoma on Friday. Only 2 games. And then there's a handful of teams here that have 3 games. But what we are caring about is the teams with 4. So I'm just going to read these down: Atlanta, Cleveland, Denver, the Lakers, Oklahoma, Philly, Phoenix, Portland, Sacramento, San Antonio, Toronto, Utah, and Washington. So these teams are the best teams to pick up. And I did want to shout out, like, if you guys, the links in the description below, if you use #basketball, you probably want to add teams that have, a space in between them. So like the Suns, they play the Pelicans and the Houston. I don't really trust teams on back-to-backs, especially this close to the playoffs. So you want a gap in between your games. Those are going to be the teams that I think I am the most interested in. So with further ado, let's get into the top pickups of the week. And here we are. I'm just filtering by the plus minus here in the research tab. It's Cameron Payne. And this was a player that we highlighted weeks ago when Chris Paul got injured, and he's just been beasting. So he's up 18.9%. Let me see. Over the last 7 days, he's averaging 38 fantasy points per game, and he's only 31% rostered. So Cameron Payne is the guy here, the pickup of the week. And again, if you're just picking him up now, this is probably your last chance to get him. I think if you play in 8 and 10-man leagues, he's probably already picked up by now, but just double check, do your due diligence. We'll see if he's available. But he's just been on fire, getting massive minutes, somewhere in the upper 30s, points, assists, in sometimes 4 to 5 categories here. So Cam Payne, the best pickup at the moment right now. And then Monte Morris coming in at number 2, 33.4% rostered, averaging 30.3 fantasy points per game. Let's take a look at his numbers here. Over the last 7 days, you see some pops here. 3 straight games of over 30 fantasy points. The minutes have been up here. Scoring's up, rebounding's up, assists are up, steals and blocks are kind of the same. But it looks like he is humming along here nicely. And so far, so good here. So again, only 33% rostered. I think in 10 or 12-man leagues, that's a guy you want to make sure you snag and put him on your roster. Number 3 here is Marvin Bagley. This is a player I was able to add. He's just under 50% rostered. But over the last 7 days, 31.8 fantasy points, and he's getting starter minutes. So Isaiah Stewart, I can't remember what his injury is, but he's out at least for the next week or so. And Bagley, so far in a few, I think it was this Atlanta game. Atlanta game here is where Stewart got hurt. Bagley came in and played really, really well. So basically 4 games of a history here without Stewart, and so far it's a really, really good return. Now Detroit only plays 3 games next week, so that does kind of stink. But for the most part, that's what you want. You're going to end up getting, probably 100 points out of Marvin Bagley, I would hope. Let's move on. Jordan Poole, he's 75% rostered, but he's seen an increase of 8.8% here. So if you're playing in 8, 10-man leagues and he's out there, go ahead and check your leagues. Well, I guess in 12-man leagues too, he's probably a player that could be out there. Bruce Brown coming in here, and he's only 13.3% rostered. He's averaging, though, 31.1 points per game, playing really, really good ball here. Even with Kevin Durant and Kyrie both in the lineup, you can kind of see here. He's just been on a tear. Like, he killed it all of February, and he's continuing to roll that into March here. He did have a low game of 15 points, but the minutes and the points and everything are still up there. He's a 4-category player for most times. He did have a nice stretch of 5 categories here. So Bruce Brown, 13% rostered. This is a really good pickup if you can get him right now. Jalen Green, not going to cover Jalen Green. He's 75% rostered. Go and pick him up if he's available. KCP, though, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. This is a player that I was able to add, and over the last 7 days, he's averaging 28.6 points per game. He did kind of have a bad game in here, a 7.75, but you look at what he's been doing. Basically since like the end of – he's been, rosterable since mid-February here. He goes back all the way basically to February 25th, just looking really, really strong here. His points are up, and he's going to attack in rebounds, assists, and steals. So he's usually a 4-category player. go ahead and pick up KCP, 17.6% rostered. He can help you out, and I like that he's dual eligible at the 2 and the 3 spot. Isaiah Roby, another player I was fortunate to pick up. He did not play well. I guess maybe he's playing right now. That game just tipped off against Memphis, but he did miss a game over the last 7 days. But you look at his numbers since February 20, I guess even since basically all the numbers on this list. He did have a couple bad games in here, but he puts up a big ceiling sometimes, 47 points, 53 points, 40 points, a 33. So Roby, a young talent here that Oklahoma's going to continue to rely on and get minutes and points out of. Next, we have Immanuel Quickley. Now, this is a guy that I kind of want to add quickly, but I did end up adding someone else here. I can't remember where he is. But anyways, the New York Knicks are struggling at the point guard position, and it's Alec Burks here. So you see Quickley and Alec Burks. These are 2 point guards here for the Knicks that you want to be able to add. Quickley is only 9% rostered. Alec Burks is 16% rostered. And the difference, like Quickley's averaging 32.9 and Burks is averaging 32.1. So really no difference here. And you look at Quickley's numbers, not a very consistent score over the last 3 games here, but the rebounds and the assists and the steals, super steady here. You're looking at a guy here who's got a pretty high floor. The minutes, again, starting to peak into the low 30s. But kind of just getting the backup minutes here for the Knicks. So Quickley, a guy playing really well. Again, if you play in 4 category leagues, or if you play in category leagues, this is the guy that could interest you. And then Alec Burks here, I think he's the better pickup just because he's going to be getting more minutes. He's been getting the starts lately, and he's easily a 4 category player most nights. Just a guy that can kind of do it all. And you look at his floor, all the way since March 2nd. So you got a list of 7 games here where pretty high totals here. So I think Burks and Quickley are must adds right now for fantasy. I did skip over Malik Beasley, who's 42% rostered, averaging 27 points per game over the last 7 days. His numbers, all across the board here. You look at his last 7 days compared to the season stats. He's up about 5 minutes per game, up about 5.5 points, up almost half a rebound, assists, steals, and blocks, all kind of the same. But it looks like Malik Beasley is starting to come around and could be useful for fantasy. We covered Burks and Quickley. What about Trendon Watford? Now, this was the guy here who I mentioned him a long time ago on the show, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and he's starting to come into his own. You look at the 5 straight games of double-digit fantasy or double-digit real points, the rebounds, the assists, the steals, and the blocks. So not much of a steal guy, but he's a very good blocker. And look at his last 5 fantasy games here. Some massive points here. So starting to hit his peak here. Again, career high 27 points the other night here against Washington, and a 4 to 5 category guy for the most nights. Jalen Smith, a guy that we covered on last week's show, only 12% rostered, and he's got a really high floor. Basically, since he got to Indiana, he's been playing at a really, really strong level here. Averaging 28.6 points per game over the last 7 days. Malik Monk, 20% rostered. Not sure what's up with the day-to-day, but he's averaging 33 points per game. KP Jr., 68% rostered, averaging 33 points per game. Jonathan Kuminga, playing well here, 28.6 points per game over the last 7 days. And just look at his numbers, the last 5 games here. If that continues, I like the numbers here, but they're going to be getting Draymond Green back. I don't know if that's going to lower his output just a little bit. Mitchell Robinson needs to be rostered. Alex Caruso making his return last night here. Let's see. So Caruso's going to be one of the first guys off the bench. So this makes me a little bit nervous about Ayo Dosunmu. But man, 31.75 points off the bench here. Something to watch here. 5 categories. And Caruso had been playing really, really well before he had his injury. So Caruso, I'm going to slap the interested tab there, and we'll follow him pretty well. What's up with Markkanen? Is Markkanen back yet? This is questionable here. We'll see, but he's playing well. He's only 45% rostered. He needs to get that number up. Porzingis, Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder's been like a really steady player all season long. He needs to be rostered in 10 and 12-man leagues. Only 24% rostered. I don't get that. Desmond Bane, a high-owned player. Brendan Williams, another Portland player here. And with the news of Anfernee Simons, this is probably the guy you want to look at for fantasy. So 27 points. Last night, 12 points the night before, 49.9 and 23.5. It's 4 games here, a sample size, but so far so good. Fantasy points, you're going to want to get them from Brandon Williams. And then after that, we kind of just get spotty here. I'm just going to shout out Oladipo, not interested. Dorian Finney-Smith, 21.7% rostered, averaging 26.6 points. That's a good player to keep an eye on here. And then Moritz Wagner, 22.9 points per game, only 2% rostered. So go ahead and check out that plus minus tab for you if you guys need some players. And that's going to do it for this video. We'll be going live Tuesday and Thursday night. If you guys want to hang out with me, please do. Anyways, thank you for hanging out. Good luck. I hope you guys enjoy the week of basketball ahead. And it's March Madness time. We'll see you guys later. Peace.